I'll call the meeting to order for April 23rd, 2025. We'll start with the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, warrant bills to sign. Approval of the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda for April 23rd, 2025.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay, minutes of last meeting.
I move to approve the minutes from April 16th meeting.
Second.
All in favor? Town Administrator weekly update.
All right, just a couple items for you this week. First is to let you know that the Lions Club representative came by the office today to let us know that they were going to move their breakfasts to the new Chapley Community Center. So they thanked the board for the years that you allowed them to use the kitchen and area, but they're going to be utilizing that new space over there going
Is it
forward.
It's open?
It's open. It's open. So
So the Lions Club kicked us to the curb for a new building?
they did.
Oh,
Their
man.
kitchen is a little more
Oh,
We have to
updated.
drive across the pond now, right?
Yeah, right.
Gonna have
So-
to build one.
The next, Tom, you'll be happy to hear from this one. We were able to find the signer of that old accident ambulance account. Yes, we found the signer, and she has gone down to close it out, and a money order will be turned over to the town and will be deposited in. So it took.
Was this gift money they received at one point?
I mean,
Did
it's
you
hard
find
to
out what it was?
No, I mean, it's so far back. I mean, the agreement and the vote turned everything over after 60 days. This was back in 2016. I mean, to say specifically what this was, I mean, it was about $1,900. It just sat stale on an account for many years.
Okay.
We had to get our legal team involved with our bank to, even after the vote and the notarized
Show-
documents,
show
everything
them
we
the
had to
vote,
show
everything.
proof that we had.
Wow.
But finally, it was able to be resolved.
I guess my only concern is if the money is restricted.
It's not.
It's not.
Based on the
Okay.
vote, legal handed when it was dissolved, the accident ambulance association was dissolved, it all went through legal and
Okay, good,
everything was
good,
sorted
thank
out.
you.
So. Ambulance bids are out, we've sent them, the fire chief gave me, I think, 3 or 4 different, companies, so we've sent those over, we've got it in the newspaper, we've got it on the website, so we'll run that for about 3 weeks and have that back in front of you. David had me gather all of the winter contracts, so we've done that, printed them off. He and I are meeting weekly now before the Wednesday meetings to start sorting that out, so we hope to have a draft before you within 2 weeks. And last, I guess just a note in regards to real estate taxes, we are pretty much done collecting taxes for, what came in around the due date. If your check hasn't cleared at this point, you may wanna reach out to us. Primarily, we returned probably 60, 75 checks that the amount in the box don't match the words that you write out. So if your taxes were $2,500 and you wrote out $2,000, the bank matches, goes by the words written out, depending on the teller. So if the teller catches it, the idea is that it's always, it's always the words. But what we found, we used to just process them for the words,
Yeah.
but then depending on the teller, it was just, they would either debit the account for the $500, they wouldn't have to debit the real
How many
estate.
checks? 60?
Probably 60 to 75 accounts that were written wrong, or we couldn't figure out the math, so what we do is do all our regular taxes, we put them in what we call a problem file. Today, I'm happy to say my problem file is empty, so your check may be coming back to you if it hasn't cleared by now, something's up, so check in with us. That's all I have for tonight.
Okay, thank you. Liaison update. Tom?
Quiet week, met with one citizen on my day in here, but other than that, it's been a quiet week.
Tom, I wanted to ask you, so regarding APAT, Dan, I've been speaking with Dan Krampus, this is regarding planning board. He's still looking at options to get that camera down for the screen. So the planning board uses that screen almost every meeting.
Okay,
And it can't be adjusted in the sense to go back and forth. So the question is, do we want to bring our videographer in during planning board meetings when we know they have a public hearing or something major? It sounds like they use the screen most all planning board meetings, but you just can't see it from the camera and there's no way to adjust it. It's either picking up the meeting
are
itself.
they using a PC?
Yes.
And they can't access the PC directly on the video, on
No.
the feed?
Only because this is, it's computer controlled. It's not like you've got somebody switching feeds on it.
Well, it's kind of like Zoom, you can share your
Yeah, I
screen.
was gonna say, it
It-
looks like we're
you know,
talking
you
about-
just, now maybe this doesn't have that feature, but in Zoom, you can share your screen.
So people
And,
can see what the screen's looking at, if it's a
Yeah.
presentation.
yeah,
it's
Yeah.
and they can go back and forth.
Right.
Um,
I don't know how, I mean, Dan and I, you know, I can certainly have him here at an upcoming meeting, but he just said that the last time he was here, we talked about whether that could be adjusted. He adjusted it a little bit, but it's still not
No,
picking up the
I've seen it.
screen.
He had
It's not
three
good.
different proposals
Right.
Well,
that night.
so we would have the videographer.
We
here?
could, that's an option, and, you know, you'd have to set the guidelines. I mean, certainly don't need it at every meeting, but maybe, you know, like the big public hearing we just had, you know, maybe public hearings, I mean, that's your call.
How's her schedule on the video?
Well, so I talked to him, and he does feel like he could do that based on the agreement, you know, that she would film X amount a week roughly. We're not over exceeding that at all, so
Well, that's what I'm
especially when,
asking.
yeah, when sports seasons are down, he said that,
Okay, let's do it until we figure out another solution.
okay, he said that we could definitely,
I think it's
But
good
But I would
because-
ask about sharing
I think that's
screen
a
or
different
some other
solution.
technique. for
yeah,
doing
and
it.
Dan will watch this meeting, so he'll have some
Honestly,
thoughts.
at the end of the
I think,
day,
And he had 3 options, so I thought there was another option about a second camera.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know he wanted, he talked about moving that.
And they did adjust it,
You
so,
know, there was nothing he could do to tilt
If
it,
we got it covered with our agreements
you know.
already with,
Bringing her in.
I would just leave it at that.
I think
honestly, I
you
think-
talk with Jason and see, you know, when he's gonna have a big one, and give Dan a couple of weeks' notice. You know, for having video.
oh, right, yeah, no, we were just, yeah.
You know, it might be a good idea whenever we have a public hearing for anything,
Yeah.
that we have it video,
Yeah,
because I mean,
yeah, you catch more of it that way.
Yeah, well, you know, because there's so much, a lot more people coming in, talking, this and that, they move, a lot of, you know, I get some complaints on how, you know, this works, so when we get something important, maybe that's something, if her
If it-
schedule
yeah.
isn't booked,
No.
then, you know, maybe that's something we ought to look into doing.
And the municipal, you know, depending on the sports season, the municipal is gonna take precedence anyways, other than, you know,
What kind of complaints you get?
you can't see it, you can't
Yeah.
see
You can only
the,
see like this much.
No,
of
I
the-
meant, but assuming there's no
oh,
projection, are you getting complaints about the
the-
screaming?
The audio part of it, I get complaints about, and,
I don't know, I haven't experienced that. Okay.
alright, so,
I
Well,
think,
if there's a problem with the system, we ought to know what it is,
Yeah.
see if we can fix it. I know we've had some times where it didn't work for some reason, and we weren't broadcasting. But I think we were able to post that after the fact. But
yeah.
if people are having problems with the
I
audio,
think,
I mean,
didn't Dan also talk about wireless mics for us because
Yeah.
this thing
Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah,
pick
he
up
said
I think he's
everything.
ordering them, or has.
Okay,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
what
I'll
what I
get an
hear is,
update.
you can hear everything in the background. as
well, I know
well.
you can
Oh,
hear when the
that's-
audience talks, I
that
don't know
is a-
where
That
that.
is a real challenge.
Yeah.
because I
do
think
pick
it's
up
important to try to find a solution within the program itself. Because this is a new system, we're still, haven't we even had this a year yet, or no? But, I mean, we just changed over, so I think this is part of the growing pains, but we just paid for this whole system, and I think to bring back the videographer, when we just kind of said, no, we don't need you, I think if we can find a solution within the system, like Tom, something like a screen share, something that can be doable, it makes more sense than going back to a system that we kind of.
I'm only talking about just for like big public
Yeah.
hearing
But-
and
but-
stuff like
It
that.
would've been
still,
nice- it
And
would've been
remember, we're
nice the
still
other
paying her a stipend
Yeah.
Yeah.
to film X amount of meetings per week,
So
so,
it's not like we're going out besides, you
And,
know,
and-
we're already
and
doing
just so
it.
people know, the stipend was less than what we
Right.
previously was.
so I'll talk to him about sharing the screen, see what other ideas he have, and his
other
wireless
things like
mic,
that, if there's
before we do
within
anything.
the system, I
That's
think.
fine.
yeah, I'm sure, you know, we can have Dan do what he can to try to figure out some solution, yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
got it.
Okay, Dan.
I have just a quick update from Mary Grant. So Mary Grant was part of the community wide town cleanup. Because of weather, they're supposed to happen this Saturday. They are moving it until May 3rd. So Mary Grant is with the community town cleanup, so they do an annual like cleanup where they go and clean up the trails and kind of get it ready for the season. It's just the update for them. And their next meeting, if there's interest in learning more about it, is May 10th. Well, that's after 5, just about the committee. For my stuff, I have no updates for the fire department. The recreation committee, they have applications out For the clinicals, as of now, the rec director has only received a few. So if anybody is interested in signing up, please sign up, because that's going to determine kind of like how many clinicals, what it's going to look like, if they're going to go through with the clinicals. So make sure you fill out those registration forms. The next meeting is April 28th, which is a Monday. So if anyone is interested in having the kids participate, please get those in sooner rather than later. And I have no updates for the Conservation Forest.
John?
I've got nothing for the school department or the cemetery. So last Thursday, the planning board had their big public hearing about fairgrounds convenience. There was a good crowd here. David and I attended. So they've been given approval for the plan. They've still got, they added 2 or 3 conditions.
Yeah, they got a DOT, it's the,
DOT, lighting, they gotta wrap that up. I think that was one of the conditions.
yeah, I believe so, yeah.
So they had 2 or 3 more orders that they needed to put down on the final plan before they submitted that to Jason.
Yep.
And then they're just waiting on a couple of things from maybe DEP and DOT before they're
It was
good to
DEP,
go.
yeah, because of the water survey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before they're good to go.
There was quite a few people there.
Yeah, I got one other thing. I thought I was gonna be here. So I found out last Thursday that the grant that I put in for the CRP was approved. So I put in for $68,838. The cap was $75,000. So it's funded by the state. The grant's good for 2 years, and right now the plan is to put mini splits in the CEO office, the library, and the fire department, and to do spray foam underneath the library floor, try to insulate that a little better and keep some of the odors from coming up through the floor. And 2 new refrigerators for here and a new freezer for here.
Nice.
Good job.
Awesome.
Good job,
Nice.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
great news.
Now, you had a tight deadline with that and had to work very
We
quickly.
had a very tight deadline, and I owe a huge debt of thanks to my wife, who did a lot of the typing. Dan did some proofing for me, Jennifer did some proofing for me, and our regional coordinator, Alexandra Brown, was a huge help by taking all of my submissions, marking them up without saying this needs to be here or this needs to be there, and she just made it that much easier to go through this.
Yep.
So I
Good
have
job.
a webinar on May 7th, and we'll find out the next steps
Awesome.
on that.
Nice.
Thank you for all that.
Cool. Awesome.
And I don't have to do it again for, I think it's just 2 years or 3 years that you're exempt from doing it again. So that's it.
Okay. Roads, I don't have anything on roads. Municipal grounds, I see Mr. Dennis has started out here. I got a call from Brian White today. Well, a conference call with Jennifer. Gotta do some cleanup out back here. I guess when they did the electrical out here, they kinda went through the mess, so he has a hard time mowing it and all that, so.
Full of rocks and dirt.
Yeah,
Oh.
so, yeah, so, we're gonna take a look at it, but see if something, Will's gonna be sweeping the parking lot, see if they can clean that up while they're at it. Good idea?
And there was
Yeah.
something about the
I did,
109 fields, or did that?
The 109 field, I guess, they backed out on part of the lawn, must be the
Oh.
parking area,
Mhm.
and they screwed it up. He did ask him to fix it, I guess they did.
Brian takes his work very serious.
Yeah,
He's-
so
I was down there a week and a half, 2 weeks
Yeah.
ago.
I'm gonna go out.
And what?
I'm gonna
It's a
take a,
mess.
It was a mess, yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna go up and, check it all out.
Did they go on to the ball?
No, this was just the lot.
There's a section of grass
Yeah.
that comes out where the parking lot is, and they say they got out on it, but, it's supposed to be gravel, the whole thing, re-graveling it after they screw it up, so I thought it was gonna be a win-win, cause there's stuff that's there now, it's just mud.
Yeah, I wish there was a way to make that gravel a lot thicker, because That's part of the problem, right? It gets so wet there in the spring.
Yes, the base is really terrible there.
Did you say they were looking to unload some of the millings from tearing up the tar?
Well, they weren't dumping it there.
Well, can we spread it on that lot and?
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know what the plan was.
I'm gonna give them a call tomorrow and see what's
Okay,
going on. I see the
yeah.
milling machine come up through today.
Oh,
So,
really?
Yeah, so, we probably need to have somebody go in there with a, to grade it, and then they gotta compact it?
they're gonna do,
They'll do all of that?
they're already filling in the area now.
Good.
And so, at the end of it, hopefully they can leave some of those millings there.
Yeah,
Problem is, what the state does is a lot of times the state requires them to haul it to one of their sites.
yeah,
So, I'll give them a call tomorrow, see what's going on with that.
okay.
Cause if they can, spread.
I
some-
assume we would want that done,
Oh,
with the
yeah,
millings in
oh,
there.
yeah.
It'd be, stay dry and, okay,
That'd be just like putting hot top down.
that's right,
So,
okay.
yep, so I'll take care of that, and, I'll probably have Will, like I said, take care of this out here, when he's doing the sweeping. I'm sure he'll be doing the sweeping shortly, I hope. So, okay, done with that, so we're gonna go down to department head, committee chair updates. Do we have any?
Good evening, Leslie Berland, Chair of Warrant and Finance. We had our meeting on Monday for the article, Article 4. The vote was 3 approved, 2 not, and 1 abstention. So it was 3-2-1. Just a couple of thoughts. I mean, I would encourage everyone to watch the meeting because there was a lot of discussion. One of the things that was talked about was the public hearing probably should have been held first. So that way that you have input from the townspeople in order, perhaps to make a change to the warrant article. There was a couple questions about the value of the sheriff, and that does not necessarily equals the amount of money that we put out, that we spend.
I'm sorry, what does that mean? I didn't follow that.
That the value of something isn't necessarily actually tied to the amount of money we spend. So value doesn't always equal money.
Okay,
That was just a theme I heard a couple of times.
As in, we're not getting enough for our money.
No, it could be either way, or
We're getting too much for our money.
yeah, I mean, if you want to. Value doesn't,
I don't, yeah.
necessitate
Okay.
the money.
all right.
But that was something that had been said by a couple of people, so I just wanted to
So that
highlight
it
that.
got voted to pass correctly, correct?
Or
3-2?
recommend,
Recommend to pass?
Three,
The article was recommended to pass, 3-2, correct?
3, 2, 1.
yeah.
So I got a question. I saw that meeting, and I'm still trying to figure out why someone would abstain from that. Do you have the reason why he abstained?
Are they employed or something? I mean, is there a
He
conflict?
had a extreme bias, is what he said.
Well, I get a bias every time I speak, but I still have to vote on stuff. I mean, typically you have to vote on when you abstain from something. You have to have a reason, meaning like family member,
Employed.
employed by them or whatever. But that was
That was the reason that the committee was given, and we accepted that.
Okay.
okay. As a chair, I wouldn't have accepted that. I wanted some sort of explanation other than I'm
What do you
biased.
mean, right?
So just a question, I guess.
Right. There was a question about the car, actually the old car. Now, it's general knowledge that the car is owned jointly by Shapley and Acton. However, on one of the old selectmen minutes, there was it was stated on December 20th, 2023, that it was owned by Acton. So, it appears that there's an error in the official record, so that I think
Take a look at
it should be corrected. And then there was talk about the presence of the sheriff and response times.
You guys came up with a number of $70-some an hour for the sheriff.
That's
How did you come up with that number?
Lori calculated that. She took the number of hours that he is inactive for the year and then divided it by how much
The car wasn't included in that.
car was not included in that, no. So,
Does the sheriff, excuse me, does the sheriff billing include overhead?
Yes, the amount that we pay includes everything from the,
Cause it's kinda like saying a fireman makes $25-30 an hour. But the way the sheriff works it up, they probably have an allocation for,
uniforms,
the
equipment, cell
dispatch,
phone, laptop.
maybe even supervision and things, so. it's-
Radios,
Radios, you know, so it's got overhead in there.
Gas, insurance.
Is that not right, Jennifer?
Yeah, no, there's
Yeah,
a long
so-
list of things in
So
there.
it's really,
Yeah.
it's not,
It's not as
that's what
black and
we pay, but it's not a number that has much relevance unless we wanna start calculating that for, you know, the transfer station, the fire department, cause the numbers would be much higher than the salary
Which
numbers. That's
is
my
why-
only point.
So I guess,
which is probably why you talked about value not necessarily being tied to money.
so when you did the math, I mean, so if you look at the breakdown that was provided, so the salary is 84,000 for the contract deputy.
That's
At
our
the end,
share,
at the end of it, it's 148,832, once everything's included. So was your number based off the 84
I don't know
or
what number, I
148?
don't.
It was off the one, I'm sure it was off the one.
Okay, so
I
that,
do
so
not
it's
know.
not his salary, okay.
Um,
It's just, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, the benefits should be in there, because that's part of our cost of having the sheriff, and, I didn't see what number she used was, so.
that's fine,
Yeah,
that's fine.
I'm just asking how that number was.
And then there's, we talked, there's 168 hours in a week, we have the sheriff for 20 hours, you know, because response time was talked about. So he's here a very short amount of time, which would affect response times. So he's not in town, response times are longer.
The response, all of the calls that we looked at, those all have response times. It doesn't necessarily break down if the sheriff is in town or they're coming from out of town, right?
Yeah, no, that's all
That's the
in
average
town,
response
right,
times.
right.
So, I mean, I remember that conversation, John, I asked the question, if there was a calculation on response times when he wasn't here, and we didn't have that. So,
And to get back to the public hearing, unfortunately, you know, the public hearing's gotta be held within so many days for absentee ballots, and to get the warrant posted, I mean, it's tough.
I mean,
You know,
and we
I mean, and the good
understand
news
that,
about
but-
this is that, I mean, it's a secret ballot, so as much as, just like the selectmen's recommendation, the warrants are posted around town, that the amount of people who are gonna see it are minimal, they're still making a decision behind the curtain, so,
Yeah.
but there'll be good questions that night.
Do you think the public hearing would change anybody's mind in your committee? I don't think so either, not by watching.
No, but it was discussed at the meeting, so I just wanted to point that
I
out.
appreciate that. Hey, I gotta, you're the chair, correct? When, I've never seen this done before, where you have an individual that's on the board get up to the podium and talk, and then go back to.
He was speaking not as a warrant and finance member, but as an individual.
No, I mean, I was just kinda confused, because at the end of the day, when you're an elected official, you're an elected official, you can't just not be, unless you resign at that point and then you decide to walk up. I just thought it was odd that you would allow that to happen.
That was the reason. He wanted
Okay,
to speak.
and you
as
would
an
allow it
individual.
again?
I'm sorry?
You would allow that again?
Yes, I would.
You would, yeah. So if I did that right now and I got, you think that'd be all right?
It would depend on what you were talking about.
Why would it depend?
Why? Because, I mean, there's certain things, I mean, if he wanted to speak as a,
Did you already know what he was gonna talk about when he went up there?
No.
So you're saying it depends on what he's gonna say, but you didn't know what he was gonna say when he got up there?
I did not, but in hindsight, I thought it was the appropriate thing for him to do, because he was not speaking as a warrant and finance member.
He, you know, I think you and I have had this talk before. When you're an elected official, you're an elected official. You can't decide today, I can't decide to be a selectman today and then 15 minutes from now I'm not. You're a selectman until you're not a selectman no more. And anybody that gets voted in at town meeting, which you guys are the first one to say, we're elected, okay? You're elected. So you can't say you're not a part of the warrant finance and then go up and speak as a citizen of the town of Acton.
I mean, I've done that myself, where I've come up to the podium and said, I'm speaking as a
I
taxpayer.
know, and we had that conversation, I told you the same thing too. It just looked kinda dumb.
Well, we
So-
will agree to disagree on
Yeah,
that.
oh, no, it's fine.
I just want to add, perception is important, and I get the intention. Every person, resident of Acton, should have the ability to speak their mind, but perception is you have someone who's working in a capacity and immediately standing up and going over. It's very difficult to say, oh, don't view me as a Warren Finance Committee when you just saw them have a almost 2-hour meeting in that capacity and then go straight over. So it is hard to say, and I don't think it's possible to say, I'm acting in this capacity, because people who were watching that meeting just saw that switch in real time and saying, like, wait, even though they are a resident of town, we're still viewing them as a Warren Finance Committee member, because this is a Warren Finance Committee meeting, and they just had all this debate and all this discussion and acting in that capacity or role. So I do think that needs to be taken into consideration. Concerns and stuff like that, like coming to a meeting and saying, just standing up at general comment. I don't know if I agree with that, but it would be, I think, a more acceptable way, because they're not working in that capacity as a Warren Finance Committee meeting. But that immediate, like, if I got up and I went over there like David named and said, oh, I'm not working as select board, everyone here just saw me speaking in the capacity of an elected official. And it's hard for them to change their mind, like, oh, I'm going to negate everything that they said, every power or authority that this individual has in that role, and expect it is on the side now.
What do you think the advantage is for someone to do that? What are they trying to achieve?
You'd have to ask that person.
Because it was all, the discussion, the comments were all about the Warren Finance Committee. So it's not like it was a total off-topic discussion, it was about the committee. So I'm just trying to understand what was the objective? And do you think you can say something as by the way, we're not citizens, we're residents. If you could say something as a resident that you can't say as a committee member, I don't think there is. So I just, like David, I'm just confused by it. I don't get it.
I think and I'm speculating because.
Yeah, I would say we
I-
can't-
No, I'm
Hey,
just,
Leslie, I tried to do it once, and David said you can't do it.
I didn't say you couldn't do it, I'd be
Well, yeah.
ill-advised, okay?
Well, no, you told me I couldn't do it.
We don't want to turn into a clown
I-
show, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
because it kind of really looks silly that someone just got up from here, walked up there and talked and kept saying, we, like he's not part of the finance committee, but we come out of the mouth like a zillion times, meaning he's talking about being on the finance committee. As a chair, you can't allow that. First of all, your meeting was on one article that took you an hour and a half, okay? And you guys got off on every other subject that you could imagine. We were on school, everything else. The warrant was what you guys were supposed to be on, and next thing you know, we turned into a warrant finance committee member talking, giving everybody hell, you know, it just didn't, none of it made sense. And as a chair, you know, that's my job to make sure that doesn't happen. And that's your job too.
Well,
fine.
the
That's
school,
just my
the
opinion.
school, the
She's
school
answered.
came
Yep,
up,
yep,
the
I
school
just-
came up because of an email that someone sent, which I shared with the whole committee. So that's why the school came up.
I understand.
You know, so that was a separate issue from the warrant.
Yep.
And, like I said,
It does,
I
definitely.
personally have come up at a selectman meeting and said, during public comment, and it's like, I am not in my official capacity, I'm speaking as a taxpayer. I've done that several times.
But we're all taxpayers, even if you're a selectman, warrant finance, the cemetery committee, don't matter. One way or another, we're all
And
taxpayers.
so, I mean, I don't see that as being,
Okay,
I think a clear distinction with your example is, as you've named, you've done that, but you've done it where you were not acting in the capacity. Like, you did not have discussion, you were not, again, doing all those roles and then expecting people's minds to instantly be able to switch over and say, okay, everything that they say is being, we're not gonna take it in that capacity. I think that, for me at least, that's where that fine line is kind of difficult to expect people to be able to make that
Yeah.
change. But either way,
We're gonna move on from this.
We're not trying to give you a hard time,
No.
Leslie. It's just, it was odd for all of us to see it, and so I think we've all
We've
spoken.
exhausted it.
We've said our piece. Thank you.
all right, thank you.
thank you.
okay, where are we? Oh, so we're still on department head committee chair updates, any others? No, I do not see, okay. Old business, none, new business, Renaissance Fair.
That's us?
We think it is.
So, a couple things before they get started. So I mentioned to you that, a few weeks back that they have, turned in their mass gathering permit and a flyer for the event. They're looking at, 3 weekends. I did have a conversation with Melanie shortly before the meeting. The state has changed the way they've done their liquor licenses, which I think I told you at the last meeting before the
Yep.
training class. So we need to treat them as 3 different events now, and they've applied 3 different ways. So we're gonna square up on the fees. I'm gonna ask you not to make any motions tonight, because we need to finish that, beforehand, and the fire department and sheriff's department need a chance to give their, any concerns they have. So they're here just to talk to you about the event and their plan, and hopefully the next week or two they'll make a decision.
Oh, okay, good to know. So, Melanie Heward, my fiance David Brown, and yeah, we're doing it again.
3 weeks.
3 weeks, 3 weekends. We have addressed some of the, or identified, shall I say, some of the issues that we continuously seem to run into every year in regards to parking and traffic.
And we summed it up pretty easily. We had a local biker bar doing the parking and stuff.
A group,
Yeah, they were
organization.
collecting, yeah, correct, they were collecting tips and stuff at the gate, so it was slowing, jamming traffic up. We asked them not to do that because they were paid to be there, and they continue to do it, so they won't be doing it this year. We hired on some new people to park and security
This
as
was
well.
at the fairgrounds?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
We
So they
had,
were stopping and collecting right at the
Was
gate,
that
so it was
the
shoving the
First
traffic.
day
back.
last year?
yes.
And that's what part of the issue was?
That's what was, and we had instructed them from the get-go to not collect.
Because that was
Right, but-
clogging it
but-
up constantly.
Yeah,
That's
you
why
wanna
they
get to
do
as
it.
fast as you can, yeah.
And 109 was an absolute mess.
And yes, and as soon as
But-
we found out,
Is there anybody else that you can go to? Are there professional parking
Already
organizations?
taken care of, yeah.
Okay.
Basically, we're hiring on our own crew to do it. It was pretty much, we had the professionals out there doing their job, directing people in, but again, being stopped by a donation cup, so
So I guess,
we had to get rid of
Oh,
that.
they were
So
asking
you're
for
not using-
donations?
yes,
Yes,
they were collecting
right at
for the
the
Ronald
gate.
McDonald
Right at
House.
the gate, which
Oh,
is
so
understandable,
good
you know.
Where do they
not
pay,
there.
where do they pay when they get in the gate?
They don't pay
They
for
were
parking,
stopping them right at the gate,
I know.
so the car was just
but they pay at
turning.
the ticket booth, which is
Okay,
further in
so,
after they
so what
park.
was, so yeah, so that obviously slowed them down.
Right,
Other than that, they would
exactly,
slow.
that's why we don't
Yeah.
do what the Acton Fair does and charge people for tickets right
Do it
as they
inside
come
the
in.
fairgrounds.
We let them come in and park, then they come to the ticket booth and buy
So
their
when there's a
ticket.
problem like that, who's responsible for determining, well, we got a problem, what's going on, and let's fix it? Because it sounds like it wasn't fixed till the next day, and we probably, I guess I would assume that
We
would
had
have been
already hired
detected
them.
that day.
Yeah, we hired them for the 2 weeks, and I had to go out there and tell them, get rid of the donation cup, take it back, get it away from the
Every
road.
time he would walk away from that
They
gate,
pull it back out
They pull
and
it
start
back.
collecting.
So it's safe
again.
to assume you're not allowing them to collect next year?
Never.
I was
They're not
gonna
even
say,
doing
because I heard you say
Yeah.
that you were told them in advance not to do it, they did it anyways?
They did it anyway,
Absolutely.
that's why they're not doing
we
it
had
this year.
talked to them before the event started. They knew they were not supposed to
So they're
be
not welcome
collecting.
back, is how we're.
They are
gonna
never,
I-
ever parking for us.
I would just
Okay.
ask that you react as quickly as you can
Yeah,
when you see a problem. I'm sure you know that there's a concern in town about the impact on traffic and parking.
yeah.
And so we want to be supportive of you and have this
Right.
event here. So it's really going to be up to you guys to make sure everything's moving the way it should be moving.
Well,
Or maybe it's up to you.
I'm gonna man the front gate from
Okay.
now on because,
Yeah.
like I said, that was the
Sounds good.
problem, was that I had to
Yeah.
come back out there and I was literally in the road,
Yeah.
waving people by, pulling them off to the side, but then it would get clogged up again. So I'd walk
Okay.
back up the 8th mile for me directing people in and see the cup back out there, and I said,
It was,
"Get away from me."
2 miles down. the
Oh
street.
yeah, it won't happen
So the
again.
people that are gonna be parking have experience getting
Yes,
people
they're,
in off the
they're
street.
coming right in, it's a constant flow, because they're gonna be going right to their parking spot, like when you go to a water park and you're just constantly driving and you parking them, and that's how it was supposed to go, but they kept pulling out a donation cup, so. I understand you wanna collect donations, but at the gate it clogs
Not
up the
at
whole
our
road
event.
and we were like,
You can collect
sorry.
donations in the gate.
Yeah, and we said that, but it never happened. It was right after the gate, and then I'd see it backed up again, and I'm like, what's going on? I'd walk back over, and they're
Alright,
sitting there, oh, it's
We
free
had-
parking.
There were
but, you know.
close to some altercations around this, because they were not listening.
Yeah, we don't.
Okay.
And
well, he looks like he
They're
can
gone
take care
now.
of himself.
Yeah, they're gone.
So would the board be, I'm sorry, would the board be open where we've gotten calls and concerns, you know, not so much complaints about us advertising the week that you're gonna, you know, consider it for a vote, so that people give them, at least so that we advertise a chance for them to come ask any questions they may have?
I think it'd be
Not a
appropriate.
public hearing per se, but at least
Yeah.
advertise that we're
Sure,
with that
that's wise.
in front of us on such and such, just give them a chance to ask questions.
I think so, and then, like, I also appreciate from last year and even this year, that we folks have listened.
Well, I think
to
that
work, and
input is,
I
you know,
think if there are people concerned and they can hear this from themselves, I think they would appreciate that and put some of their qualms to
People
rest.
don't want 3 weeks of, I mean, last year, after,
We don't want
after the
it
first
either.
day,
Yeah.
things were so much better.
Yeah,
2 years ago, well, you know,
A
that
little
was,
rough, yeah.
that was really.
yeah.
Trial and error, I guess.
We
Trial
want
and
our
error.
patrons to have a great experience.
Mm-hmm.
We want them to be able to drive right up, drive right in, park, get in, and have fun. Because that's the whole idea of the whole
We were
thing.
trying to find the problem, and we quickly located
We
it, because
found
even though
it.
we told them not to do it.
But
they
literally, I
continued to
swear
do
to
it.
God, the minute he would walk away, they'd
Yep.
start up again.
So,
And I
yeah.
was stuck in the ticket booth, and if you remember correctly, last year I wasn't mobile, cause I had gotten
Oh,
in
yeah, I
that
got run over by a
accident.
car, yeah.
So like, I was literally stuck in the ticket booth I never saw the fair. I couldn't do anything. So I was kind of reliant. This year, I'm mobile, and I'm gonna be watching.
That's good.
Yeah, I'm gonna get your phone number programmed.
Well, you're gonna get,
Yeah, okay,
Yes, sir,
yeah,
yes, sir.
you talk to
Yeah.
the man here,
I'll let
cause
Sam-
he's gonna be out and about, and he's gonna be making
So what's this
sure
gonna be, a
traffic
couple weeks, you
flows,
think,
and we have a
Jennifer?
good plan, plenty of signing. Wanna do the same thing where we put signs, on some of the side roads.
Not to block.
Don't block driveways, no parking here, no parking there, we're adding to our sign repertoire all the time. And just, you know, try to make it really run nice and smooth. One of the main reasons why we filled out the application so early was so that we could get to you guys, let you know that we wanted to do 3 weekends, and work with you to get a good plan so that we don't run into any issues.
So, you're gonna, for next week, is that what you're
Well,
gonna do?
so I was gonna ask
advertise
you, well, so I mean, we'd advertise it tomorrow, I mean, it's, you know, wouldn't run in a newspaper, but that's, you know, we could at least put it out there
Yeah.
on the website. We have the, I think the transfer station presentation, that's it for next week, or the 7th, which would be the night we do the sheriff public hearing.
I mean, there might be people with the sheriff public hearing who want that and might be interested. I know that suppose when we separate things, people have to pick and choose, but having them both at one, and it gives more time for advertisement as well. And they did say they applied earlier this year than usual,
Yeah,
so that kind of gives us an extra.
So,
Some,
plan on
When is
7th,
your first, when's the first date?
July
19th and
19th.
20th of
Oh,
July.
that's a little while away.
Yeah, 19, 20 of July, 26th, 27th, and August 2nd and 3rd.
so we might get some people for the sheriffs and then be able to say, oh, by the way, we
Yeah,
also
yeah.
have the Renaissance if you want to stay.
Yeah.
I noticed the liquor, I wasn't sure if that, is the liquor, company, the Bubbles to Go, they're listed as a nonprofit,
They are a nonprofit.
so they don't charge for the alcohol?
They do charge for the alcohol, absolutely, they cover costs.
They must
There's no
have some
profit?
public
There's no,
charity,
they're a non.
some benefit that they're supporting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, yep. Yep, they are a
So we're gonna
nonprofit.
May
hold this
7th.
off for 2
Yep.
weeks?
Yeah.
We'll invite the fire chief, the sheriff will already be there, and we'll
That'd
advertise.
be a good idea, everybody, yeah.
We'll have everybody there.
That's a good.
Oh, yeah,
May
the
7th.
sheriff might.
Yep.
So,
Sure,
you want us back?
Yes,
Yeah.
Okay.
and just pop in to pay those other fees that we talked about before the 7th.
Okay,
They can
before the
possibly,
7th?
they can possibly vote that
Okay,
night.
so back on the 7th. Alright,
We'll bring the passes too.
and we'll bring the.
Yeah, if you wanna leave them another day after, I mean, you really shouldn't be giving to them during
Oh,
the meeting,
okay.
especially the night they vote, that just
No
doesn't look
problem.
good. But the counter is a fine place for residents if they want them.
Okay.
Do you have any other identified issues, or were those the only
You
ones?
know, we really didn't, we are bringing on more security this year, because the only issue we ran into was the weekend that, the bar across the street had their event. We had some of their patrons hopping the fence,
I had to chase them down.
And you saw them come out for
Yeah.
establishment?
Oh, yes.
You saw them leave the front door, walk across
We're
the
like,
street?
hey, you guys can go pay for your
Sort
ticket.
of all, right?
You're welcome to come, like we said, as long as you're gonna have fun. You know,
Yeah.
but the gate's right over there, you know, a lot of us can climb through
Yeah,
the
they
gates.
literally hopped the fence and, you know, it was like, anyway. That was, so we're adding a little more security, trying to police the perimeter a little more and, you know. Other than that, it was wonderful. The EMTs, as always, were fantastic. They're always fun to work with. I think they have a good time too. We had a few people with heat stroke, but not too bad.
And just so you know, with the pay increases and cost of gas and
Yep.
so forth, the board will be looking at the rates that they charge for all events, not just yours. So if you decide to go with the Acton coverage, you may see that those fees go up a little bit.
Totally understandable.
I don't know if this is an appropriate time or should I wait for just a thought for. I've gone to the event and you mentioned with the heat stroke. I do have some concerns of, I know that there's one misting tent, but you think of the population about the lack of shade or opportunities for people to cool down. And I don't know if that's a concern to be addressed, but like it is an open space, there's not much shade. Just from my personal experience, when you have those hot days, thinking of
Well,
public safety.
one thing we have done, we've increased some of the tent sizes that are being where the seating is, okay? So there'll be more chairs and more tents for people to sit under. I have the stuff to put up a second misting tent. And I just didn't get it done this year because of my injury, but
Adding stages too, we ran out of time with them.
yeah, we ran out of time with setup.
Gotta
It's a big
organize.
endeavor.
Rented it for a longer time.
But definitely putting up a second misting tent. And, of course, the Acton Fairgrounds had added a new tent as well that we put, picnic tables under. So, yeah, I mean, we try to add a little more every year. You know, if I could put the whole Acton Fairgrounds under a big tent with an air conditioner, I would.
The joust field,
The
we'll put them up through there.
Right.
It's a nice shaded area.
But, yeah, we're always watching and making sure people stay hydrated and stuff
Just
like
wanted to-
that.
Hard to get misted when you've got a suit of armor on.
Yeah, right.
And you get a little rusty. You get a little rusty.
Put the hose up
All right,
into
May
it.
7th.
So May
May
7th.
7th.
Thank
Awesome,
you.
thank
Alright,
you.
thanks, guys.
Something D40, you know.
Recommendations on June 10th, 2025 warrant.
Okay.
Motion to sign.
So we've already heard the order because you guys signed it. I'm not gonna read the first three articles. Those are your election of officers. Article 4. See if the town will vote to continue with the York County Sheriff contract in conjunction with the town of Shapley and to raise and appropriate $115,000 for Acton's share of the contract deputy costs and new deputy vehicle purchase. Looking for a motion
Make a motion
Second.
to
to recommend.
approve as written. Second.
All in favor? Opposed?
Okay, 3-1. I'll get that typed in real quick, so just don't leave until you've signed.
3 to 1.
Oh, okay.
Try to remember
I wrote it down.
Trying to remember what.
not to leave.
Okay, we're gonna move on to our request for information.
Oh, yes. Freedom of information request. This comes from Rollin Waterhouse. Request the approximate balance of the funds currently held at TD Bank and the approximate balance of the undesignated funds held at Partners Bank.
Can I see that? Well, the balance won't be approximate, it will be the actual balance,
As of that date.
as of
yeah?
the date that we select on the TD Bank. And the balance of the undesignated funds held at Partners Bank. This isn't worded in a way that I would know how to answer. I don't know how to answer it. I don't know if you wanna speak to that, but the first one I get, you wanna know what the balance is. But on this one, you're asking the balance of the undesignated funds held at Partners Bank.
He's asking if he can come up.
Yeah, come on up, Roland. Couldn't see him, he's right behind the podium, so. I wouldn't
Oh,
be
yeah,
able to
that's
see
why I
him.
thought.
I was hiding. From or out. What don't you understand about the undesignated fund, Tom?
Well,
The undesignated fund, as I understand it, and if I'm wrong, fine, I'll admit that, is our checkbook balance. Undesignated fund is what we pay the bills with out of Partners Bank. That's the fund I want to know what the balance is.
well, the undesignated fund is an equity account that commonly referred to as fund balance or reserves. The balance in the checking account doesn't have anything to do with it. They're two separate things. So either you want to know the balance in undesignated fund balance, which we cover, or you want to know the balance of this on deposit at Partners. You can't put those together because they are not the same thing.
Then I don't understand.
Well, I'm
Okay.
sorry, I would,
In that case, then, you know, if you want to amend that.
I'm not
request-
gonna amend it.
No problem. Basically, you're
Is that what we
denying the
do, Jen?
request.
No, he's not
I'm so-
denying the request.
I'm not denying it at
Let's just
all.
clarify.
I'm just telling you, you've asked me a question that I don't know how to answer. Because it's constructed in a way that
Where do we pay our bills out of? What fund do we pay the bills for the town out of?
out of Partners.
And what fund is that? Everybody in town
It
is
is
gonna say the same
it
thing.
is our cash
It's an
account.
operating checking.
It is not undesignated fund balance. I'm sorry you don't understand that. Maybe you need an accounting course, but
I
there's
greatly
difference.
appreciate your disrespect, Tom. Thank you.
It's not. I'm being serious. I'm
Okay.
being deadly serious here. I would no disrespect meant. I'm serious. There is a difference between an equity account and a cash account. I'm trying to tell you that. And your question has constructed it so you're mixing the two. The last thing I want to do is answer the question and have it not be answered correctly. That's all I'm saying.
I'll take that request back and I'll amend it,
Thank you.
okay?
Yeah.
And I expect an answer the next time.
You will get an answer as
I didn't
required
get
by
one
law.
at the town meeting, did I?
Well, the
Thank
town
you.
meeting had ended.
And I asked,
Rolling.
don't
Back-
even.
Back to the podium if you wanna speak.
I asked the question at the end of the town meeting, and I had asked the moderator if it would be okay if I addressed this question to the people who were in attendance, because I figured that would be a good time to get a lot of information out to a lot of people, or actually, a little information out to a lot of people, because we
Okay.
had a pretty good turnout.
Yeah.
And the response I got was, meeting's over, and 5 people, 6 people walked off the stage.
I believe the meeting had been adjourned.
It
Yes, it
adjourned.
was.
Yeah. So it wasn't up to the moderator. The meeting had been
The
adjourned.
moderator should not have ever allowed that, okay? First of all, there was a motion to adjourn, there was a second, everybody's getting up to go. Next thing you know, oh, Roland wants to speak. You could speak to an empty room, nobody had to stick around, the meeting was done.
People would
Okay.
have liked to have heard the
If they did, they would have stuck around for it, they didn't.
You can say what you want, David.
I thought what we did, we told you that if you had a concern, to come up here Wednesday night. That's what
No,
we
you
told
didn't
you.
say a damn thing other than the
I do
meeting.
believe, I did say that to the moderator, that I told Mr. Nass that we have, on Wednesday night, we have public comment, and if he likes to discuss it, that's the time to do it, not after we just adjourned the meeting.
Okay. I'll issue a new freedom of information request,
Okay.
okay? Tell me what 2 accounts that I should ask for. If you don't want me to say the pardon me, tongue getting dry. If you don't want me to say the undesignated fund, okay, should I ask for operating funds? Should I ask for reserve? They're not reserve accounts.
Look, let's not
Some
get
of
into
the
that.
money's in
I
reserves.
believe what I hear you asking is you want to know how much we have on deposit at Partners Bank.
That'll work. I'll put
Then
that.
just
exactly
put that
how
in
that'll work.
and we'll be happy to answer that question.
Thank you.
Don't reference fund balances because it's got nothing to do with it.
We just don't wanna answer it incorrectly.
We're not gonna make this difficult, we're just gonna go with that,
Yeah.
right?
deposits, money's on deposit at Partners Bank.
Yeah, we'll be happy to get you that information.
Thank you.
Okay,
Are you looking for just the town or the school in town?
Town, please.
Okay, just trying to clarify, everyone.
I can get the school information in the drop of a hat, sir.
Good for you. You can get it here too if you ask the right question.
I could get it even
If
quicker if I
you
asked
speak
my
at the
wife.
podium, please. Okay, are we done with that?
I think so.
Okay, good. Okay, I guess we're gonna go to public comment. Anybody got a comment?
Steve White, East Shore Drive.
Yep.
This people that you just listened to with this fair coming up,
Yep.
is there any way you can have them put up signs on East Shore Drive, park on one side? They put on both sides and it's a single lane going through. And if you drive on East Shore Drive, it's very difficult, somebody has to back all the way up because
So you want them to put on one side of the, what side of the,
one side or the
Or the
other,
other?
just
no
yeah,
parking on one
both
side?
sides, because they block it and it's very difficult. And then you got people walking,
Yeah.
so somebody's
How
gonna
far
get hurt.
down are they parked?
Down to about where the Boy Scout Camp Kitteridge.
Yeah. So no parking or just one
Just
side?
one side.
Just one
That's all.
side,
I mean,
okay.
You know, just to make it easier.
Is
for
there a
people.
particular side you don't want them parking
No,
on?
either one.
Oh,
It's just
okay.
so somebody can get by.
You know, that makes sense.
Because
Yeah.
it's just when people are on both sides and somebody's trying to get in and out and you're coming down the road,
Oh, yeah.
door comes open, there's no way for you to go, you could hit them.
That sounds like a good idea.
It's just a safety thing.
We put that on the things to do list,
Yes, sir.
cause we, you know, when we make the recommendations,
Yeah,
what they
put
put
it in
on,
the
that'd be
motion.
good. Yeah,
Absolutely.
awesome.
That's it.
Is that
Thank you. You got-
probably the only road that we have a problem with?
I put any side town. road, right?
13th Street regulates themselves. We can't
Yeah,
tell
13th
them.
And
so.
12th Street doesn't allow it either. I
Those are
don't think-
private, so we'd stay
Yeah, I
away
don't
from
think any of those.
And like Milton Mills or 109, you
Milton
can't.
Mills, they're
No,
on
we
both.
can't, no, with Milton Mills 109, that's state roads, we can't really.
Right.
And that's the same thing that the fair does on Milton Mills anyway,
both
so
sides,
I mean,
yeah.
that, we haven't had any issues with the fair, so I think.
But
Something
East
like
Shore
East Shore
Drive
Drive
though
is
is really
consistent.
narrow,
It
and
is.
that's a high traffic road.
It is,
So.
there's a lot of houses down there.
There's only one way in and one way out, so,
Yeah, so, I
right?
appreciate you sharing that.
Ray Lopez. Totally different subject than anything that's been discussed.
Nice to see you again.
If memory serves me correct, there had been nothing designated for the bridges. That had been taken off, if anything had been gone. The bridge, and I know it's a state road going into Milton, off of Milton Mills. I mean, that is getting really bad. And I know the majority of the issue is on the Milton Mills side of the situation. Has there been any discussions with Milton Mills and the state of New Hampshire of getting that taken care of? Because I mean, the potholes are getting pretty big.
Well, it's a state issue, and we did have a discussion there, I thought it was 2025, I thought it was this year that they were gonna start on that project. But
Can reach out to
what
them.
we can do, Ray, for just you, we're gonna look into it. We're gonna make a couple phone calls, we can call, what's his name up there, the state there that does the bridges,
Bridge warden.
He just sent us the reports,
yeah, I know his name, but we'll look into it for you, cause I went over the other day and I don't even wanna drive my pickup truck over
Is
there.
that
Yeah, I we just saw a car that was there, they hit the pothole and actually
Yeah.
broke
Is there
one
a
of
real
the
safety
axles
issue?
on there.
I believe there's a safety issue. I mean, there's a reason why they have
It's illegal.
sinkholes every year and they patch them in.
There's-
The dirt goes
there's-
somewhere.
there's-
So,
Yeah, it's about, yeah, you're right, it's about 2 feet
Yep,
in length
yep.
and
Should
about
we,
10 inches in diameter.
You know, this issue's been brought forward, we've been advised there are potential safety issues. Should we send a letter to the state?
I think that'd be appropriate.
yeah, you know what?
Let's send a certified letter to the state, telling them that we have concerns about the
We'll-
safety of the bridge.
We'll send it to the bridge engineer.
Yeah,
I think that'd be the one to send it
and,
to.
you know, maybe that will light a fire.
Yep.
Fair enough.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea.
It's a good
Thanks,
idea,
Ray.
thanks, Ray.
Okay, any more public comment?
Yeah, looks like we have.
Mr.
Just,
You got here just in time, dude.
yes, I was watching the meeting from home, and the reason that I came up is I believe that I may understand what went on at Morton Finance in terms of the individual leaving the table. and I think he was mistaken in doing so. Not that he didn't have a right to, but as I recall, the Maine Municipal Association advises that if a member on a committee or on a select board has a conflict of interest and needs to recuse themselves, but still wants to speak to the issue, that they are supposed to leave the table, come over and speak from the podium as a resident. In this case, there was no conflict of interest, there was no vote on the particular issue and so forth. So that's why I say I don't think it was necessary to leave the table and come over. But I think that individual may have been confused about the protocol when that is the appropriate thing to do. So
Actually, that makes sense.
I just wanted to offer that explanation. And I also want to say, in terms of the comments that were made that night, that we do have the right to criticize elected officials. Employees have a right to do that. It is still the United States of America, and that's what a lot of our veterans fought for, is the right to be critical of our government. And you know, if you're an elected official and you can't handle that, then maybe you shouldn't be. Just saying. But I think I haven't seen anyone speak that didn't have the right to or did so in an objectionable manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Bernard. Okay.
I have
Oh, Joyce, come on up.
really totally different than
All these
Are you sure?
headbangers.
positive. An update. I know I asked you a while ago, but I was just curious what's going on with the land we were looking at. If there's any update on that, there were liens against it.
There's no liens, no, it wasn't a lien.
Oh, I
It's a
thought.
it's a mortgage, he's trying to get the piece cut out of the mortgage. There's no,
Okay.
there's no update.
No update.
Lankowski said he would
Okay.
So
notify us.
unfortunately, they put a piece of property up for sale that they couldn't sell without going to the bank and splitting off, and we didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
Depending on how it's worded, June
Well,
thirtieth, can solve
actually, if
that.
there was a lien
Right.
against it, you would have known it.
June thirtieth, you know, what happens if
You
it's
would have
still
known it
in,
right
you
away.
spend it.
It's,
But
it's mortgaged with the property he owns across the street.
yeah, you couldn't have known that. Huh? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any more public comment?
I have one thing.
Oh, go
I
ahead.
think a good positive note. I just wanted to recognize that today is Administrative Professional Appreciation Day, and just recognize Jennifer all the work she does and say thank you for everything.
Thank you, and thank you for the flowers too. Because it looks confused. You owe the guy his money, but thank you. They signed your name.
I'm looking over you.
Nice job, Jennifer.
Ed texted you too. Ed said thanks for signing this thing.
I actually called him to tell
You
him,
did?
yeah, to sign it for me. He's like, you know, I'm on vacation. I'm like, oh, but you know it's on administrator day,
Yeah.
right? So,
Thank you, gentlemen, very much. Thank you.
okay, if we don't have any more public comment, do I hear a motion?
Move to adjourn at 7 p.m.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you, everybody.